in the cold expanse of space, where stars burned like distant beacons on a velvet black canvas, a lone vessel drifted, silent, scarred, and forgotten. The Artemis Explorer had once been a symbol of humanity's boundless curiosity, a sleek ship, sent to chart the unknown reaches beyond the Coalition's borders. Now it was a ghost adrift in the void, its hull pocked with scars from an ancient battle, systems flickering with failing power, and no sign of life aboard. The vast emptiness swallowed the ship whole. Inside, the cold hum of malfunctioning machinery was the only sound. Life support tanks cycled weakly, oxygen levels dropped steadily. The explorers who once breathed, dreamed, and fought here had vanished, claimed by time, silence, or something far darker. For decades, the Artemis had floated aimlessly, a drifting monument to a lost era. Yet amidst the darkness, a faint pulse persisted, an ancient distress beacon, buried beneath layers of static and interference. It was weak, erratic, almost like a heartbeat struggling against death itself. The signal flickered, momentarily stronger, then faded again into the abyss. Far away, aboard a sleek alien patrol cruiser, sensors caught the faintest echo of the signal. The crew dismissed it immediately. Human technology was considered relic, extinct for centuries after the Great War had torn through the galaxy. No one truly believed humanity had survived. To the Coalition, humans were ghosts, a painful memory, best forgotten. But one young alien technician, Kira, stared intently at the readings on her console. She was new, a risk-taker, with a reputation for questioning orders. The faint distress pulse was unlike anything she had ever seen, irregular and fragmented, but undeniably human in signature. She hesitated, then activated the communication array, attempting to decode the ancient signal. "Captain, there's something, an old human beacon. It's faint, but it's definitely there," she said quietly. Her captain shrugged dismissively. "Ignore it. Human transmissions are myths, Kira. Focus on your assigned patrol." But Kira's curiosity was a flame that wouldn't be extinguished. When the others weren't looking, she accessed restricted archives, files buried deep in Coalition servers labeled Classified Human Extinction. What she found chilled her. Fragmented reports of the Artemis Explorer, lost in an uncharted sector after a sudden violent encounter. Final logs cut off in terror. Something about a secret weapon, a betrayal, and a warning never sent. She knew she was risking everything by pursuing this ghost, but a strange sense of urgency gripped her. If humanity was really gone, why was the beacon still alive? What message was waiting to be heard? As she worked alone in the dim glow of her workstation, the ship trembled, a subtle shudder barely noticed by the crew. Outside, space itself seemed to ripple, as if something unseen was moving closer to the drifting Artemis. Kira's eyes widened. The signal flared suddenly, sharp and clear, a fragment of a human voice breaking through the static. "This is Captain. Mara. Artemis Explorer. Cargo secured. Protect at all costs. Warn the fleet." Then silence. Kira's breath caught. The transmission ended, leaving only the endless black. The crew around her remained oblivious, dismissing the signal as a system glitch. But she knew the truth. Something buried deep in the void was awakening, something that had waited too long to be forgotten. And far beyond the distant stars, a warship stirred from its hidden refuge, responding to the call that no one else dared to hear. Kira's fingers trembled as she replayed the broken transmission again and again. The voice was unmistakably human, strong, desperate, and commanding. "Protect at all costs. Warn the fleet." The words echoed in her mind like a warning carved from a forgotten nightmare. But what fleet? And what threat could still haunt? The stars after so long? She glanced around the dim control room of the patrol cruiser. Most of the crew were oblivious, focused on routine scans and petty bickering. But Kira knew better. The Coalition's official stance was clear. Humanity had been extinguished decades ago. Their technology was obsolete, their survivors myth. To admit otherwise could reignite old conflicts, unravel delicate alliances, and destabilize everything. Yet, here was proof that those assumptions were wrong. Ignoring orders, Kira dove deeper into forbidden archives. Late nights blurred into early mornings as she cross-referenced ancient Coalition battle reports, classified intelligence files, and encrypted human logs recovered from the wreckage of the Great War. Piece by piece, a puzzle emerged. Humanity hadn't been wiped out. They'd been scattered, hunted into hiding. Their last war fought in shadows and whispers. Most shocking of all was a name she uncovered repeatedly: Project Sentinel. No one outside a handful of top Coalition officials knew what it was. The fragments suggested a secret human weapon, powerful, enough to tip the balance of the galaxy's power, hidden aboard the Artemis Explorer. Kira's heart raced. If the weapon was real, and if the Artemis was still out there, it could mean one of two things. Humanity was planning a comeback, or something worse had been unleashed. Her thoughts shattered when a sharp knock sounded at her quarters door. Technician. "Kira, you're needed in the captain's office immediately." Her stomach dropped. She hadn't been careful enough. Someone must have traced her unauthorized data dives. She locked her console and followed the escort down narrow corridors lined with cold steel and flickering lights. The captain's office was a sparse room filled with holographic star maps and tactical displays. Captain Wren, gruff, experienced, and loyal to Coalition law, stood waiting, arms crossed. "We've been monitoring your activity, Kira," he said bluntly. "You've been accessing classified human files. This is treason." "I had to know," she said, her voice steady despite the fear knotting her chest. "The distress beacon. It's real. The Artemis is still out there, and it's carrying something dangerous." Wren's eyes narrowed. "Dangerous how?" Kira hesitated, then showed him the decrypted logs and partial coordinates she'd pulled from the archives. "There's a weapon aboard, a secret project called Sentinel. The humans hid it before they vanished. We can't ignore this if it falls into the wrong hands." Wren's expression hardened. "Or if humanity itself returns." Before Kira could reply, the ship's sensors blared a warning. An unidentified vessel was approaching fast, moving directly toward the Artemis coordinates she had uncovered. The captain's jaw clenched. "We have a situation." Kira rushed to the command console as the ship shifted course. The approaching vessel was sleek, unfamiliar, and heavily armed. It didn't match any Coalition or known enemy craft. "Unknown vessel, no transponder signals," Kira reported, her fingers flying over controls. "They're heading straight for the Artemis." The captain's eyes locked on the screen. "This just got complicated. Prepare for contact." In the tense minutes that followed, Kira's mind raced. Was this the beginning of humanity's return? Or a new threat ready to claim the lost secrets of the Artemis? And who had sent the signal? Was it a trap or a plea for salvation? Outside, the cold stars watched silently as ancient histories stirred and destinies collided. The abandoned ship waited, and something in the void was coming to answer the call. Captain Wren stood rigid on the bridge, his gaze fixed on the approaching silhouette growing larger on the tactical display. The unknown vessel was unlike anything in the Coalition fleet, sleek and angular with weapon arrays that gleamed coldly in the void. Its silent approach, without a single transmission, sent a chill through the ship's crew. Kira's warning echoed in his mind. "Prepare for contact." "Raise the hails," Wren ordered, voice calm but firm. "Open a channel. If they want to fight, we'll give them one. But if this is some desperate rescue, we'll hear it first." Static filled the comms. Then a crackling voice cut through, gruff, clipped, undeniably human. This is Commander Mara of the Artemis Explorer. We've been adrift for decades. Your arrival is unexpected. State your intentions." A ripple of disbelief swept through the bridge. The voice was the same that had flickered faintly over the distress beacon. For the first time in decades, humanity spoke through the void. Captain Wren's heart tightened. His past was scarred by the Great War, by battles with rogue human factions that had cost him comrades. But this was different. This was a ship lost to time, a remnant from a past no one dared confront. He nodded to Kira, who began working to open a docking corridor. "Commander Mara," Wren replied. "This is Captain Wren of the Coalition Warship Vigilant. We respond to your distress signal. We mean no harm, only to understand what happened to your crew and the weapon you carry." Inside the Artemis, flickering lights revealed a haunting scene. The corridors were eerily silent, shadows stretching across cracked walls scarred by battle. Kira and the boarding party moved cautiously, their footsteps echoing against empty decks. The air was stale but breathable, preserved by the ship's faltering systems. Then the lights flickered violently. The shadows seemed to warp and pulse. An ominous chill swept over the team. Kira's heart pounded as she realized the ship wasn't just abandoned. It was waiting for someone to uncover its secrets. Deeper in the ship's core, they found the cargo bay sealed tight. The doors groaned open, revealing a sleek container glowing faintly with an eerie blue light. Kira's breath caught. This had to be Project Sentinel, the weapon hidden away from the galaxy's eyes. Suddenly, alarms blared. The ship's AI, dormant for years, surged to life with a rasping voice, broken by decades of silence. "Warning! Intruders detected. Security protocols engaged. Protect the Sentinel at all costs." The boarding party froze. The AIs fragmented. Memories began to play. Voices of the Artemis crew pleading, strategizing, fighting to protect their secret from an unknown enemy. The final transmission spoke of betrayal from within, a crew member turning against them, sabotage that doomed the mission. Captain Wren's comm crackled urgently. "Vigilant to boarding party, what's your status?" "We've found the weapon. The AI is active and hostile. Something on this ship still thinks it's under attack," Kira reported. Outside, the unknown vessel's weapons powered up. An alien fleet had appeared on the fringes of sensor range, moving fast and intent on intercepting both ships. The Artemis was a prize both sides coveted, and a spark was about to ignite a conflict that could consume the stars. Back on Vigilant, Captain Wren made a difficult decision. Prepare for combat. But we're not just soldiers, we're the first. Chance at peace with humanity in decades. We'll fight, but we'll listen first. Kira's eyes met Wren's. What if the weapon is more than a weapon? What if it's the key to survival or destruction? The ship trembled as the first enemy blasts erupted in the distance. The cold void had awoken an ancient war, and humanity's lost warship was the spark. The question now was simple. Who would answer the call? And at what cost? The Artemis Explorer groaned under the strain of distant blasts, but inside its hollow corridors, the real danger was something far less tangible and far more terrifying. Kira led the boarding party deeper, into the ship, each step stirring the cold dust of decades. The walls bore scars of battle, scrapes, scorch marks, and strange symbols etched in a hurried, trembling hand. The dim emergency lights flickered unpredictably, casting long, restless shadows that seemed to move at the edge of vision. "Keep your eyes open," Kira whispered, her voice taut with unease. The silence was broken by soft echoes, metallic creaks, and distant thumps that could have been nothing more than the ship settling. But every member of the team felt it, the oppressive weight of something unseen. They reached the ship's command center, a room frozen in time. Consoles flickered with corrupted data, hollow displays revealing glimpses of frantic crew logs. The Boarding party hacked into the systems, retrieving recordings that played like ghostly echoes of the past. Captain Mara's voice crackled through speakers, tense and desperate. "We're compromised. Someone's sabotaging the ship, the cargo, the weapon. It's unstable. If it falls into the wrong hands, the entire sector will burn." The logs hinted at betrayal. One crew member turning traitor, a secret alliance with an unknown enemy. The boarding party exchanged uneasy glances. Could the enemy still be here? Was the ship's AI warning them of a threat lurking in the shadows? Suddenly, a low hum filled the air. Lights dimmed further, and the ship's corridors seemed to pulse with life, the boarding party's comms glitching, voices warping into whispers. They couldn't understand. Panic flickered in Kira's eyes. "Something's wrong," she said. "The ship itself, it's fighting us." Doors slammed shut behind them, cutting off their retreat. The walls seemed to close in as if the Artemis itself was a living prison. "Stay calm," Captain Wren ordered, though his voice betrayed his fear. This ship was built to protect its secrets, by any means necessary. Kira's scanner picked up movement, footsteps echoing just beyond their sight. No one answered their calls. Paranoia crept in. Was there someone else on board? An enemy survivor? Or had the ship's systems been corrupted into a ghostly sentience, turning against all intruders? In the ship's lower decks, the boarding party found a sealed chamber humming with energy, the heart of Project Sentinel. The glowing container pulsed with an otherworldly light, casting eerie patterns on the walls. Kira reached out, hand trembling, to scan the container. The readings were impossible. This was no ordinary weapon. It was a fusion of human engineering and alien technology, capable of manipulating space-time itself. A sudden jolt threw the team to the floor as the ship convulsed violently. The AI's voice returned, distorted and frantic. "Security breach. Detected. Neutralize threat." Smoke curled from vents, and hidden turrets emerged, aiming directly at them. The boarding party scrambled for cover, firing back as the Artemis seemed to come alive in defense of its dark secret. In the chaos, Kira glimpsed a twisted figure in the shadows, a crew member thought lost, now transformed by the weapons. Influence into something inhuman, guarding the cargo with unnatural fury. The boarding party barely escaped the chamber, retreating to the command center as the ship's systems spiraled out of control. They were trapped inside a haunted tomb, hunted by echoes of the past and a weapon too dangerous to fall into any hands. Captain Wren's voice was grim. "We came looking for answers, but the Artemis holds a truth darker than we imagined. We're not just fighting for survival. We're fighting the legacy of a war that never ended." Outside, the distant enemy fleet closed in, oblivious to the horrors inside the drifting ship. The Artemis was a battleground between past and present, and the final act had only just begun. The Artemis shuddered violently as the hidden turrets fired bursts of plasma into the dark corridors, their eerie red glows cutting through the smoke and shadows. The boarding party ducked behind debris, weapons raised, breaths ragged. Kira's heart pounded as she glanced at the twisted figure she'd glimpsed earlier, a grotesque shadow of the human it once was, eyes glowing with unnatural light, moving with inhuman speed. This was no longer a battle between ships or factions. It was a fight against the very corruption that had consumed the Artemis. Captain Wren barked orders. "Hold your ground. We need to secure the control room and stabilize the ship before those enemy fleets arrive." Kira moved forward, scanning the ship's network for any sign of a kill switch or override that could shut down the rogue AI and stop the turrets. The deeper they went, the more fragmented the ship's logs became. Snippets of paranoia, betrayal, and desperation. One log stood out, a secret transmission recorded by Lieutenant Haran, the crew member who had sabotaged the ship. His voice trembled with fear and anger. "They've been hunting us from within. I had no choice. The Coalition won't understand the weapon's power. If they get their hands on Sentinel, it will mean the end of us all. The boarding party exchanged grim looks. Haran's betrayal wasn't just treason. It was a desperate act to protect a secret too dangerous to reveal. Kira's fingers flew over her console as she uncovered another message. A final warning from Captain Mara herself. Sentinel is not a weapon of destruction, Mara's voice whispered through the crackling speakers. It's a key to salvation, but only if it's used wisely. If the wrong faction controls it, it will tear the galaxy apart. Suddenly, the twisted figure lunged from the shadows, blocking their path. The team opened fire, plasma bolts lighting the corridor, but the creature's unnatural reflexes made it nearly impossible to hit. It swatted aside attacks like they were nothing, advancing relentlessly. Kira dove sideways as the creature swiped, crashing into a bulkhead. She scrambled to her feet and fired at a control panel nearby. The panel exploded, sending a shockwave. That staggered the creature just long enough for the team to push past. They burst into the command center, sealing the doors behind them as the ship's systems groaned in protest. Captain Wren slammed his fist on the console. We need to stabilize the AI and figure out how to control Sentinel before that monster or whoever else gets us. Kira nodded, pulling up schematics. The AI core was buried deep within the ship's engine room, a place that had become a labyrinth of malfunctioning systems and lethal traps. Then that's our next stop, she said, but as they prepared to move out, an incoming transmission cut through the tension. It was the unknown alien fleet closing in, their voices cold and merciless. Artemis detected. Cease interference and surrender the Sentinel weapon, or be destroyed. Captain Wren's eyes narrowed. They want the weapon too. We're caught between a ghost from the past and a threat from the present. Kira's mind raced. The weapon wasn't just a tool, it was a symbol of everything humanity had fought for and lost. If it fell into the wrong hands, it could mean the end of the fragile peace in the galaxy. With the enemy fleet bearing down and the Artemis's AI turning against them, the boarding party had no choice but to press deeper into the ship's haunted core, into the heart of the secret that could save or destroy them all. The narrow corridors of the Artemis twisted and warped like the veins of some long-dead beast, cold metal walls groaning under the strain of decades without care. Kira's boots echoed hollowly as she led the boarding party toward the engine room, where the rogue AI core pulsed with erratic light. Each step seemed to carry them deeper into the ship's haunted heart, and closer to the secrets that had doomed its crew. Keep your weapons ready, Captain Wren warned. We don't know what's left down here, but it's hostile. The team moved carefully, scanning for traps and hostile presence. Every flicker of the emergency lights cast unnerving shadows. Whispers seemed to echo from the walls, distorted, fragments of the ship's last desperate moments playing in their minds. Kira's hands flew over her console, hacking into the failing security grid. If we can isolate the AI core and shut down its defense protocols, we might regain control over the ship and the Sentinel weapon. But the AI was cunning. As they neared the engine room, the ship convulsed violently, shutters slamming shut and pathways closing in. The Artemis seemed to resist their every move. Suddenly, the lights went out. Darkness swallowed them whole. Kira's comm flickered with static. Then a voice, cold and mechanical, echoed in the blackness. Unauthorized access detected. Intruders. Will be terminated! A surge of electricity crackled through the walls. The team scrambled for cover as energy arcs danced dangerously close. Kira barely avoided a lethal discharge, her pulse hammering. Captain Wren shouted, "We're in the AI's kill zone! Move!" Guided by emergency beacons and sheer instinct, the boarding party pushed forward, muscles burning, hearts pounding. The air grew thick with tension and the scent of ozone. At last, they reached the engine room, a cavernous chamber dominated by a towering core of alien technology fused with human engineering. The Sentinel weapon's heart, the AI's presence, was palpable, a dark energy humming from the core. Kira's fingers trembled as she connected her hacking interface to the system. Lines of encrypted code raced across her screen. This was more than a weapon. It was a sentient interface, capable of adapting, evolving, and defending itself. Suddenly, the core pulsed, and a holographic figure appeared, Captain Mara, or at least what remained of her consciousness embedded in the AI. "Why have you come?" the apparition asked, voice layered with sorrow and warning. "To stop the chaos," Kira replied. "To understand what happened here and prevent it from happening again." Mara's hologram flickered. "Sentinel was created to protect humanity, to grant power beyond imagining. But power corrupts. It tore us apart from within. One betrayed us, using Sentinel to destroy the Coalition fleet and flee. The weapon's energy mutated, consuming all who tried to control it." Kira swallowed, hard. "Can it be stopped?" Mara's image dimmed. "Only by those willing to sacrifice everything." As the Artemis trembled under external attack, the alien fleet closing in, the boarding party faced a grim choice. Destroy the weapon and the ship, erasing humanity's last hope but ending the threat, or attempt to harness the power and risk, becoming the very thing they fought against. Outside, the sounds of battle grew louder, the fate of two fleets, and perhaps the galaxy, hanging by a thread. Captain Wren looked to Kira. "What's your call?" Kira took a deep breath, the weight of centuries pressing down on her. "We end this here, for good." The Artemis trembled with a ferocity that shook the bones of the boarding party. Outside, the distant roars of the alien fleet's weapons echoed like thunder across the void. The Coalition warship Vigilant held the line, but the enemy pressed, relentlessly, desperate to claim the Sentinel weapon and the secrets hidden within the ghost ship. Kira's fingers danced over the console, initiating the weapon's shutdown sequence. The Sentinel pulsed wildly, as if resisting, but the ancient code that bound it began to unravel, one line at a time. "Almost there," she muttered, sweat beading on her brow. Her teammates guarded her with fierce determination, eyes scanning, every shadow for the grotesque creature stalking the ship's corridors. Suddenly, the AI's holographic form of Captain Mara appeared once more, her voice a spectral whisper. "This is your final warning. Destroy Sentinel, and you destroy the future of humanity." Kira paused, her hand hovering over the final command. The temptation was immense. The Sentinel could grant unimaginable power, the key to survival in a hostile galaxy. But the price had been paid in blood and madness. Captain Wren's voice broke the silence. "We don't choose power. We choose survival and peace." With a steady breath, Kira pressed the command. The core began to collapse, its light flickering as the weapon's energy dissipated into the void. The ship shuddered violently as fail-safe protocols engaged. Doors slammed shut, bulkheads sealed, and alarms screamed a death knell. "Move! Now!" Wren ordered. The boarding party sprinted toward the exit as corridors collapsed behind them. The creature, the last remnant of the Artemis's cursed crew, raced after them, shrieking a banshee's cry. Plasma bolts lit the dark as they fought for every step. Kira tripped but was caught by Wren's outstretched hand, dragging her to safety. They reached the docking bay just as the Vigilant's crew extended the corridor. The alien fleet closed in, their ships firing volleys that lit the blackness with deadly beauty. The Vigilant's captain hailed them urgently. "Last chance! Get aboard!" With the creature snapping at their heels, the boarding party surged forward, plunging into the safety of the Vigilant. The airlock sealed behind them as the Artemis erupted in a cascade of light and fire, its destruction echoing across the void. Silence fell, both ships drifting in the aftermath, battered but alive. Kira sank to her knees, exhaustion and relief flooding her. Captain Wren clasped her shoulder, a rare softness in his eyes. "We did it," he said quietly. We stopped a war before it began. But as sensors scanned the ruins of the Artemis, a flicker of light caught Kira's eye, deep in the wreckage. A faint beacon pulsed steadily. The Sentinel wasn't gone. The Vigilance bridge was tense, bathed in the pale glow of distant stars and flickering consoles. Captain Wren stared at the sensor readouts, a knot tightening in his gut. The Artemis had been obliterated, a blazing testament to their final gamble. Yet deep in the wreckage, a faint signal pulsed, steady and unyielding. Kira stood beside him, exhaustion etched into every line of her face. "That beacon, it's coming from the core. Sentinel's energy signature," she said softly. Wren's jaw clenched. "We destroyed the ship, but not the weapon. How is that possible?" A silence fell over the bridge, heavy and unsettling. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Then, the ship's AI chimed in, voice smooth and cold. "Captain, the Sentinel weapon's core is a self-replicating quantum matrix. It cannot be destroyed by conventional means. Its energy disperses and reforms, a shadow that lingers." Kira's heart sank. "So, it's out there, somewhere, waiting." Outside the viewport, the stars twinkled serenely, indifferent to the chaos that had unfolded. The galaxy was vast, and the Sentinel was now a ghost in its endless night. Wren turned to the crew. "Report status. We need to regroup and prepare." As the Vigilant set course for the nearest Coalition outpost, the crew worked tirelessly to patch damages and analyze the implications of what they'd uncovered. The mystery of the Artemis was far from over. In the quiet of her quarters, Kira accessed the last fragments of data recovered from the ship's AI. There, buried beneath layers of encryption, she found a message, a final log from Captain Mara, hidden from even the AI's own protocols. Her voice was a whisper, fading but resolute. "If you find this, know that Sentinel was never meant to be a weapon of war. It is a key, a gateway to a power beyond comprehension." We tried to protect it, to keep it safe from those who would misuse it. But in doing so, we doomed ourselves. Kira's eyes widened as she decoded the final words. "Beware the shadow of salvation, for in seeking to save humanity, you may awaken a force that will consume it." A chill ran down her spine. Back on the bridge, Captain Wren addressed his officers. "We stopped one war," he said, voice steady but grave. "But the war for the future is just beginning. Humanity's greatest test lies ahead, not against an enemy fleet, but against the power we barely understand." Kira joined him at the viewport, gazing into the abyss where the Artemis had been. "The stars are watching," she murmured, "and they're waiting to see what we'll do next." The Vigilant jumped to light speed, vanishing into the darkness. But somewhere out there, the Sentinel waited, a shadow poised to shape the fate of all who dared reach for it.